Crochet had injured himself whilst out hunting last week. It was nothing more than a sprained ankle, but he called me in as he so wished to strap it up so he could get through to the final was.
I'll have to tell the workers. They'll be less likely to crumble once they hear what poor old Crochet had to go through.
Yes, very good, Morvid. I'm sure that will inspire them. I just live in hope that we'll get to see things change. I've never known time so bad as this.
And that's why we're meeting. Change is coming, Doctor.
Unfortunately for many, it hasn't arrived soon enough. I went round to check on Delith Williams, D. Clean, to certify the passing of Mr. Williams.
Never knew such a cursed family. Why couldn't the Lord have saved even one of their parents?
The Lord has nothing to do with it, Morvid. It is the work of men, and men alone. I can still hear them, all those children that have gone before us. Their cries, they keep me awake at night.
You did all you could, Doctor. Mrs. Williams knows how hard you tried. There's only so much you can do.
You say I live in two worlds, Morvid? There are only two worlds I know of, and they are not of heaven and earth. They are the worlds of the mansion and of the cottage. They are the world of the master and the slave, and the exploited and the exploiters. And between these two worlds has evolved a grim and relentless struggle.
How was Mrs. Williams when you saw her?
I'm afraid I wasn't the first to visit her. The bailiffs of the court of request had got there before me.
I'd wager that it wasn't offering their condolences either.
Indeed not, my dear.
Couldn't they have waited until Mr. Williams had been put in the ground at least? Parasites.
They were acting on Joseph Cotton's orders.
Coffin and his bunch of grabbing bastards. They'd take the coins off a dead man's eyes if he didn't keep up with his payments.
First they knocked on the door, and when poor Mrs. Williams didn't have the strength to get out of bed, and then she didn't answer the door, they proceeded to kick it in. Poor old Idris had handed over his watch only a fortnight before, but that wasn't enough. And then they decided to take every plate and dish out of that house. They were actually heard shouting and screaming that if you had no food, you'd have no need of these, would you?
I didn't know. Poor Mrs. Williams.
First they threw the sick old lady out of bed, and then they really got to work, ransacking and emptying the house. Poor old Idris lay in there, barely cold. He begged her not to just take her Bible, and that's how I found her, Morvid, curled up cold and crying on the floor.